About a month and a half ago, we were in England, and you saw our coverage of the Depeche Mode show, their last date on their European tour. They're in America now. Well, Robert Smith was kind enough to grant us an interview. We're at the Fiction Record offices, and he had just finished mixing the live album, or live albums, and the concert film show that is currently making its way across the country. And nice enough to grant us an interview. He's in a really good mood, and promoting his CD soundtrack that goes along with the movie. It was all recorded in Detroit during the Wish tour, and there's also a second CD called Paris, which contains songs not included on show, and all the songs on that CD were recorded at Paris during the Wish tour. There you go. See, it's called Paris, and Paris is actually coming out in October, and that's it. That's all the information I have, all the background information, and we're going to jump right into it. Part one of our exclusive interview with Robert Smith. Correct me if I'm wrong, you've never done a proper live album. Lots of live tracks and lots of live B-sides, but never...
Well, we sort of did a live album called Concert in... It was after the Top album, so it was in 84.
It was an EP, wasn't it, kind of?
It was an album, but it suffered the same fate as On Treat, in that it was a kind of half-hearted, staggered release, and it got released some places and not other places. And I think now it's become part of the Fiction back catalogue. I think they've given it a number and you can get it on CD now. But at the time, it was like unavailable for years, and it's not really that good. I mean, the repertoire's not that good. It's only about sort of 10 songs or something, so it's more vinyl length. You know, it's like 45 minutes.
So you just decided it was time to do it. Is that what did it?
Well, with the show film, that how it all started off was because of the thing with Paul was one of the reasons that I knew he was leaving. I knew the lineup was going to change, so I figured that we'd never be doing that set again, we'd never have that show again, and I really just wanted to capture it. It was I just thought in years to come, if the only thing that's ever there as a kind of visual testament to The Cure live is The Cure in Orange, I'd be pretty upset. I mean, not that The Cure in Orange is a bad film, but it has nothing really to do with what we do now, or what we were doing last year. That's completely unrepresentative. So I suppose it was like just for us initially. I just wanted something there so that when people look back in years to come, I mean, the film's effectively for people in the future because we're still around. You know, it's not really for now, but so they can look back and think, oh, that's what The Cure were like, that's what they did. So I suppose it's a conceit in a way. But I mean, once we jumped into it, the idea of the live album going out with it was sort of obvious. But the Paris stuff was because we recorded 3 nights in Paris much later in the year, and everything had changed. The kind of the mood within the group had changed. The songs had all changed. I mean, they're all different songs, obviously, on the second album. And it's much more a sort of a hardcore fan sort of album. They're really old songs, and it's a lot slower and kind of moody. There's like 3 8-minute songs on there. It's that sort of album.
We will have more from my exclusive conversation with Robert Smith throughout the entire show tonight, so be sure to stay with us. Right now, we're going to play you a brand new excerpt from the show film, and it's a song from The Cure's last studio album, Wish, and it's called Doing the Unstuck. And right after the break, part 2 of our exclusive interview with Robert Smith of The Cure. Welcome back to MTV's 120 Minutes. I'm Largent. We still got a world premiere from Radiohead coming up. But first, part 2 of our exclusive interview with Robert Smith of The Cure, and more on their new tour film show. So, now, the movie, was that recorded just in Detroit, one show?
Yeah, well, 2 shows.
Is there a lot of pressure on you knowing this is the movie, this is going to be it?
There was, yeah, that's why we did it. I mean, there was no other good reason for... I mean, Detroit's like a good place to play, and we always have a good audience there. It's... ideally, I suppose, I would have liked to have filmed the Texas Stadium show in Dallas, just because it meant everything to me being a Cowboys fan. So that's not the reason, but it was like a big...
You're not a Cowboys fan, are you?
Sort of. I am now. Emmett Smith's giving me a shirt. But it was just like a big event, and it was kind of... The whole setting sort of was geared up for like a film. It was like a very dramatic, you know, and it was also very incongruous, us playing in Texas Stadium. It's kind of a meeting of like 2 extremes. But we couldn't hire Texas Stadium 2 nights running. We couldn't field it 2 nights running, sadly.
Big, but you're not that big.
Yeah, so Detroit was the only place really that we could get 2 nights in a sizable place where we knew the audience was going to be good. So if we really went badly wrong on the first night, we always had the second night to fall back on. But as it turned out, I think this 18 or 19 songs on the video. There's only, I think, 3 from the second night. We were really good on the first night.
More later on with what we think is the only American interview with Robert Smith this year. But first, part 3 of our exclusive interview with The Cure's Robert Smith. And a lot of people compare The Cure to Depeche Mode a lot of times. And I don't know how much they have in common, but one thing they do hold in common with Depeche Mode is that they've never had a manager. And I asked him why.
I'm prepared to, I suppose, spend the time and make the decisions. We've never had a manager, and so I suppose that, I mean, like once a day the office will like either fax me through or phone me up with a list of questions, and I just like yes, no, and it's usually no, 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 no. It's easier than delegating it to someone else who you're going to disagree with. It would take twice as long arguing the point of like why we should do it, why we shouldn't do it. I mean, Chris Parry sometimes will come to me with, you know, from Fiction's point of view, say this is a great marketing idea, blah blah blah, and he'll have his 15-minute pitch, and then I say no, it doesn't feel right, and he go okay then. You know, and I'm sure I'm hated for it a lot of the time. I mean, particularly by the record companies. Can't understand why I don't actively want to sell more records, but I realise that with the groups that I like, there's something more than just what they do musically. There has to be. You have to, like I was saying earlier about not being embarrassed about liking someone, you have to actively want to be a fan, I think. And if I ever stopped feeling that about The Cure, I know it would have all gone wrong. And so I sort of live or die by my own decisions, and I suppose that's why. I mean, we don't employ anyone. I mean, when we do something like a tour, obviously you get people in to fulfil certain functions, but in everyday life, you don't really need anyone. I think people are scared to take the responsibility for their own lives a lot of the time. That's why they have people around them. And it kind of keeps the real world at bay a lot of the time. It sort of stops you having to think too much about things. But, I mean, I enjoy that. I've got to, I mean, I'm around much younger people far too much for me to be embarrassing. I mean, in some ways, I mean, I'm like hugely embarrassing to them in other ways, but I'd never be like let the group, I suppose, drift off and lose control of it because I've invested half my life in it.
Who's that really ugly guy sitting next to Robert, huh? We're going to have more of our exclusive interview with Robert Smith as 120 Minutes continues tonight. I'm Louis Largent, and now it's time for part 4 of our exclusive interview with Robert Smith of The Cure. And in this particular installment, Robert tells us about the departure of longtime Cure guitarist Paul Thompson. So I just want to ask you about some members of the band. Simon kind of conked out in the middle of your European tour. What happened there?
He developed pneumonia and pleurisy and God knows what else. He's like, I don't know what's happening to him really. He just went very savagely downhill health-wise through excessive drinking mainly.
Now, what did you do once that happened, and like what happened in the tour? Well, you were in the middle of a tour.
Yeah,
if I'm wrong.
Although the overview of the tour was that it was really good fun, it was also quite intense, and a lot went on around the actual like performing side of it. There was a lot of personal grief, which is the same as I suppose for everyone, but it's kind of intensified when you're travelling around together and you don't really have a normal life. If things start going wrong, it's very difficult to just kind of like put your bags down and try and sort something out. And the only way that people kind of channel that is like back into the group, and it can either make for a brilliantly insanely intense concert, or it just flares up backstage and you end up like trading punches or whatever. And with Simon, it took the effect he just like took it out on himself and just reached a point where he couldn't physically play anymore. And we were lucky in that Roberto Suave, who's a bass player, is a
That's not his real last name.
It is his real name, and he's Scottish. It should be at least McSuave, shouldn't it? He had played with Shelley and Orphan, and also the Associates. So we'd known him like since 1980. I'd known him, so it's he was like a safe bet, really. I knew he was an excellent bass player. It was just he had 2 days to learn the set. That's the only thing I was a bit unsure about. But he did it, and we played a full set 2 days after Simon had gone home, which is pretty remarkable. And it kind of stayed. This was like with 3 weeks to go, I think, on the European tour. We had about, I think, 13 concerts left, and Simon sort of was ready enough to get back into it for like the last 5 concerts, and we had 2 bass players, so we kind of used 2 bass players, which is really good. There's really some powerful stuff on the last few nights of the tour. I don't know. I mean, Simon's got a bit weird.
He's getting a bit
nice
weird?
way, yeah. But he does from time to time, you know, he's a complex personality.
But right after the break, part 6 of our exclusive interview with Robert Smith of The Cure. But first, part 6 of our exclusive interview with The Cure's Robert Smith. Are there any songs that you play live that you feel like you have to play? Like do you play just
Like Heaven?
Yeah. Do you play that because you feel like you have to play? Would you not play it if you had your druthers against your better judgment?
I don't know. There are kind of pressures, insidious pressures from all around us when we're out on tour of what to play and what not to play. I think we appreciate that an audience is there and they're going to want, I mean, just talking to an audience, you get the feeling that they want to hear certain songs and would feel upset if they didn't hear them. And it would seem really churlish just not to do them just because we didn't want to do them. I mean, that's the reason why we play so long, is, I mean, apart from the fact we enjoy it, is also to fit in all the stuff we want to do and fit in the stuff that we think, or that we figure that the audience wants to hear. There are definitely key songs when we've played live in the past sort of 4 years that we've always played, we've never left out. I mean, Pictures of You was always in the set. I think Lullaby was always in the set. Just Like Heaven was always in the set. They're really like the singles, I suppose, that mean something. Whereas although, like in America, I suppose Love Song's our biggest single, but that isn't like a mainstay in the set. In fact, we play it very rarely. So it's a combination of what the audience wants and what we feel comfortable playing. But, I mean, it changed through last year. We played, I think, more than 60 songs in the course of the year. So. But I think there were 5 songs that we played every single night.
The ones you just mentioned.
Yeah, and open and end with the other 2.
You mentioned, we've been talking about Just Like Heaven, which is, I think the reason Electra feels that is because in it was never a big top 40 hit, but it was huge on commercial alternative radio. Any time like K-Rock in LA, WDRE in Long Island will do like their top 500 of all time, that song will be firmly entrenched in the first 5 positions.
It's because we did it at the MTV Awards.
Is that it? But
ingratiating.
What do you think of your status of still being an alternative band, even though you entered the charts at number 2 with your last album? You've had, I think Love Song was at least a number 2 or number 1 single.
Only 2.
Number 2, just missed it. What kept it out? Do you remember?
I don't. What kept us out this time? Janet Jackson, I think, wasn't it? It might have been Janet Jackson before as well. I think she's got something against us.
It was either
she
that.
She waits and she releases her records to coincide.
It was either that or like Garth Brooks or something.
Yeah, that rings a bell. It was someone that we'd never heard of, and we thought, how dare he?
But what do you think of, like, how do you view yourself? Isn't that weird for you, or is it weird for you to have an alternative status even though you play Dodger Stadium and Giant Stadium? How do you perceive that?
I don't know what it means, I suppose, with The Cure in that context. It's because we got nominated for our first Grammy this year, for the Wish album,
yeah,
as in Best Alternative Album.
It would have been this last year, yeah.
Yeah, so that made us laugh, you know, because it was like a number 2 album, and it was number 1 at like everywhere else in the world. But it was like
R.E.M. was probably nominated for Best Alternative Album as well, which sold 4 million copies.
Yeah, I think they were actually. Yeah. So I mean, it's just, I suppose it's an attitude. So we should be pleased to be classified as alternative. I mean, I would hate, being serious, I would hate to be considered mainstream, because I still like the idea of people being able to like us and not be embarrassed about liking us. You know, it's like that we're not quite right.
Thanks for staying up late with 120 Minutes. I'm Louis Largent, and now for the final installment of our exclusive interview with Robert Smith of The Cure. You have an amazing knack, excuse me, for bringing people into the band who are not like necessarily obvious choices from other people. Like you wouldn't audition somebody. They're usually people you know. And Perry was your roadie. Is he going to contribute now? Does he contribute to like the songs and the songwriting process, or is he going to contribute like in the making of your next album? I don't even know if you thought that far ahead or not.
Well, we never really thought of Perry as a roadie, because he's exactly the same age as us, and exactly the same sense of humour, and a similar upbringing, not I mean, we've all got pretty diverse upbringings, but it's gone through the same basic educational system in England, and so has the same kind of phobias, the same bugbears and that. It's very easy to get on with and understands the Cure, and as an old Cure fan, actually saw us in 1979. So it was the most natural thing in the world to, when the position became vacant, so to speak, just to invite him in. I mean, it wasn't because he could play particularly well. That's never the primary concern. Although he can play well, but he wasn't picked because he was technically a wonderful musician, and then let's see what his personality is like. I mean, he was picked because he fit, and it was like a kind of a bonus that he could actually play. Well, had he not been able to play at all, I doubt if we would have considered him. But I mean, he contributed to the Wish album. He wrote Trust, just one of Perry's songs, not lyrically but musically. So he started straight away. I mean, he had like 10 years worth of stuff on cassette to play me. So listen to this one. So yeah, he's very into it. In fact, he's actually like he's constantly the one on the phone to me saying, "When are we going to do something?" I haven't finished the last stuff yet. Because he's sitting at home like shuffling his feet, wanting to get going. Because to him, it's all very new. I mean, he was in a band when he was at school and for a couple of years after he left school, but has never really been in a serious. I don't know if we were a serious band, but a band that is able to make records. So he wants us to get going quick. So I have to patiently explain to him that I need a break for a certain period of time, otherwise I get fed up with it.
And there you go. That's it. Hope you enjoyed our exclusive interview with Robert Smith. As a little postscript to the whole Robert Smith thing, just in case you're ever wondering, Robert Smith he's like the nicest, most candid, genuinely honest, sincere guy around. He kind of has a timeless quality about him. Like when things go in and out of fashion, he's kind of stayed the same and been really true to the music and just like the nicest guy in the world. He was so great, and like afterwards, he really enjoyed the interview a lot. Like played us, he went and got this tape and played us this really spaced out, weird kind of techno-y version of Purple Haze that's coming out on a Jimi Hendrix tribute album soon. So I look forward to hearing that.